Many times I tell people, new people, that if they don't have a lot of money to their name, then the stock market is not really for them. They could make better money growing a business or doing something else with this money, and when the money grows to a certain amount, then the stock market becomes very scalable, and then it's a better way to get into the stock market. However, I had this great realization recently that makes me question this. If you're new to this channel, my name is Mariusz Konieczny. I run Microcap Explosions, a private membership website dedicated to microcap stocks, which are ignored and underfollowed by the investment industry. I also wrote about 10 books on investing, one of which is available for a free download at microcapexplosions.com. I also created valueinvestinguniversity.com, which is a free resource to make you a more intelligent investor. If you have $1,000 and you want to double your money, putting it into the stock market is not the best way to go, because you can go and work 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever, and you can double that money, okay? Quicker than you can double in the stock market. And the same thing is if you're a professional, whatever, professional accountant, lawyer, doctor, whatever, you are a high earning individual. So it makes more sense for you to work at your job for however many years, 5, 7 years, whatever, to save as much money as possible, and then take the lump sum and use it, put it in the stock market, hopefully into the small cap or micro cap stocks where you can get more return. And then you don't have to work your job because you can make your money work for you faster. And that was always my view. And it still is, but there's a flaw. There's a flaw to it. And here's what made me realize this. So 2 or 3 individuals, a friend of mine who is very heavily invested in Oracle and Voxter and everything on MCE. You know, he gets it, he understands it. His brother put in $1,000 into Voxter. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with putting $1,000 into Voxter, but when your net worth is, I don't know, 500,000 or $1 million, how much of a difference is $1,000 gonna make, even if it 10x's, right? It's not going to make an impact, right? And that individual is a professional. And then I have another friend who, you know, is also a professional and has a sizable net worth. I don't know what exactly it is, but definitely in the millions. And he takes out a portion of, you know, his money, and he puts it into something like Voxter, Oracle, and some other ideas on MCE. And he calls this speculative money, right? But it's the same thing. Like the big money that he has is with a financial advisor, right? Financial advisor that, you know, puts it in the safe place, index or big names that grows a little bit, but it's safe, right? And then there's this speculative money that is play money, right? And now I was thinking to myself that I have probably about the same net worth as this individual. And I don't think of my investments as speculative money. And he does, right? So even though his net worth is, let's say, this much, he will take only this much and put it into the kind of ideas that I like to invest. He calls it speculative money. And I take the whole amount and I just put the whole thing into my ideas. I don't take it into safe places, right? And it made me think, like, why is it like this? And that's because of how the person makes the money. And here's what I mean. I did with my net worth what I'm saying people shouldn't do, because I went full-time into investing when I had $10,000 to my name. And I, you know, 10x'd it, 100x'd it, and whatever. But I made my money through investing. Somebody else, a professional, makes his or her money by doing something else. Okay? So by the time the person reaches a savings of, you know, 500,000 or $1 million, they made it doing with their profession, right? Do you think that they have the courage, the skill, and the conviction to take this entire amount and put it in stocks, especially the stocks that I talk about? No way. No way, because it's too risky for them, right? They haven't done this before. And me, even though I might have the same amount, I have no problem. I have the skill, I have the courage, and I have the conviction to take all of this, or majority of it, and put it in ideas that I like. I'm not scared, right? Why? Because I've done it. I grew it from this to this by doing exactly the same thing, right? So it doesn't matter if I manage 10,000, 100,000, or 1,000,000, it's the same thing. It's the same exercise. I just buy more shares of the same thing, right? Because I can still play in that small and microcap space, still at this level. Yes, if my net worth reaches $200, $300 million, then I might have to move up to small cap or mid cap, but I am far from that. I can still play in that game where I can leverage that money, right? So where am I going with this? You see, if you take that approach of making your money in a different way, and then you try to make the transition into stocks, it's very scary. And I don't think you should. I don't think you should be aggressive the way I'm aggressive, because you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the conviction, and you don't have the experience, right? So you're not going to have the right mentality, you're not going to have the same tolerance for volatility, because it's always going to be like, oh, what if I lose it? If I lose it, I worked the last 10 or 20 years saving it up. I can't make it up. I don't have another 20 years because I might already be 50 years old, right? But me, it doesn't bother me because I can make it the same way I made it, right? So, okay, I'm down on Oracle, a lot of money. It doesn't bother me because I can just make it up, because I know if the thesis plays out, I'm going to be back to where I was before, right? So how do we solve this? Because you see, let's say at the beginning, you're like, you flip cars or you flip houses, and then you have enough money and you're going to go into the stock market because, that's scalable. It's not going to work that well. So I think that I would suggest to people that they should start that stock market journey as soon as possible, because you need 10 years. You need 10 years under your belt to gain conviction, to gain the skills, and go through the up and downs. You need that 10 years. And then after 10 years, you probably, hopefully, if you do it right, you're going to have the right skill set to be able to take money and work it for you. But it's tough, because let's say you're making $100,000 per year, and you can only start with 10,000. You can be aggressive with that 10,000, but how likely are you going to take it seriously? Because it's like, if you put $10,000 on the line and you're making 100 or 200 a year, are your emotions really tied to the 10,000? No, you're like, doesn't matter because I can make it up in 2 months, right? So you never get that feeling and that experience of, I can go heavy and then let's see how I behave. Let's see how our emotions react while going through those ups and downs. Let's see how my research gets tested over the years. Are my investments working out correctly? Is my research correct? It takes time to develop that skill. So even though I went through my journey in probably not the most effective way from the calculation perspective on paper, it was probably the best way to go about it, because even though I was making very little money during the first 5 to 7 years, very little money, I couldn't use any of that money because I needed to keep it there, and I lived like a college student and I had to do other things to pay bills. That experience allowed me to do what I'm doing now. So if you have a full-time job and you're not doing this full-time, I just suggest start as early as possible and take it seriously. Don't Don't think of it as a game. Take it seriously, because at some point, if you develop this skill, you can truly transform your money into millions instead of taking just a little bit and treating it as a gambling money, and you put so little into these ideas because of the lack of conviction, lack of skills. Even if they win, they really don't change your life that much. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.